Hello, everybody. It's Lorraine Alternative Homesteading on February 28, 2026. I'm going to continue reading from The Circle of Snakes by Bobby Towers. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow, get the message out there, and welcome newcomers. And for those, welcome back to my channel. As I mentioned, the NCVC, National Center for Victims of Crime in New York City, collects statistics on organized stalking. They receive thousands of complaints about it per month, which represents 10% of the total complaints. Police departments around the country also receive thousands of complaints. Take the case of Aaron Alexis, who is now infamous as the Navy Yard shooter. On September 16, 2013, a well-armed Alexis made his way onto a Navy base in Washington, D.C., where he worked for a subcontractor as a computer technician and allegedly killed 12 people. Prior to this, however, on August 7, 2013, which is like a month earlier, he filed a complaint with the Newport, Rhode Island police saying he was a victim of government gang stalking and ELF, extremely low frequency wave weapons. Anyone who's familiar with these type of weapons and cases can give these claims credence. But does this seem like a necessarily satisfactory conclusion? He didn't know where or how to file, and these police would not have been able to help. Therefore, he felt helpless. Well, then what can be done, if anything? First, your goal would be to end it without a dark cloud looming. Now, as I've mentioned, I know that there are many of you trying to battle the symptoms of the attacks using remedies, devices, and gadgets. This manual may not help you with that, since it is really for those TIs sincerely looking for a final solution. To do this, you must have a well thought out systemic plan. Let's assume it's the government, as it is in my case. I know based upon observations, deductions, and research that it was. Then we know it'll be military-based tactics. This doesn't mean it's the military. It could be DHS, meaning the Department of Homeland Security, or any number of covert government entities which are all in collusion. These are just standardized tactics anyway, which are the most finely honed. This means that they'll have access to some sophisticated technology, and because of this, you'll have to assume that there isn't anything that you can do that can't be monitored. No intelligence agency I know of is more technologically sophisticated than the military intelligence. Since they work together with the CIA, the DHS, the Black Ops, they have access to satellites in orbit around the planet. You can draw all your own conclusions. Your phone use, your computer, the TV channels that you watch, your mail purchases, what you throw in your trash. Everything you do at home, office, vehicle, anywhere you are or travel, and walls or locks are not obstacles. So gain some knowledge, study up. And by the way, this mini art is by Lynne Kohler. It's an octopus, and we are dealing with an octopus. At the library, they will know what you're reading through the computer. Timestamps, IP addresses, and even your own computer's or laptop IP address request. An ID will give you away anywhere you are. The point here is never let your guard down and never underestimate them. Assume you can keep no secrets aside from those in your head. Well, these days, even those aren't safe. Don't assume, however, that they can't be beat. The best laid plans in the world are often foiled. So, even with the most sophisticated technology, wars are lost. If you're a target, you have been declared an enemy or a test subject by your government without a hearing. You must know that you can't outthink them and you can't outspend them. These government projects have bottomless pockets, technology, and some of the world's smartest support personnel. Your mission then is to be proactive in defending yourself. You do this by compiling data, and in order to be effective, you must stay focused. This means not letting your guard down for 1 second. You must always remain in character as a simple-minded, easy target. In other words, don't let on. Now, how do you go about collecting information while at the same time separating reality from fiction? By this I mean reality from delusion. TIs can get so hung up on being defensive that we forget not everyone we meet is part of the conspiracy. It won't really matter anyway if you're going about a law-abiding life and not giving anyone much ammunition. Even if you have personal illegal habits like a drug problem, it won't justify anything they do. Unless they're doing the same thing to everyone in the US with their drug problem, then you're still being unlawfully targeted. You have nothing major to hide while they do, so they have something to lose. As a TI, I often find myself in suspicious situations that I would just roll with. Then later on, I would ask around non-suggestively, so as to not appear as though I was fishing. Working things into normal conversations, I would see if others had similar experiences. After realizing that I was often the only one going through these things, I noted details. One mistake we make too often is believing that seemingly odd experiences only happen to us. They don't. So be sure. And yes, that was like sort of like what happened to me when I received a $1,500 property tax increase with no justification, no notification, and no method to dispute it. But everyone I asked, nobody else received an increase. Some people received a decrease, and they had houses that were 4 times the size of mine. So let me give you an obvious example. I was getting pulled over constantly. 5 times in my own driveway and 2 times in front of my house. Dozens of times in different towns, states, etc. So it's easy to conclude that this was not normal. I almost never got ticketed, leading me to believe that the stops weren't documented. Ask anyone, how many times do you get pulled over in a year? The average answer is none. The amount of times and locations means that it was being coordinated non-locally. Clues like this can speak volumes. That's an easy example of how it's only happening to you, but strange phone calls, street theater, hit and run, dings to your car, strangers glaring at you. These things seem normal enough, but when they occur abnormally frequent, it's not typical. These are all the bits of information that cumulatively start to paint a picture again, straight out of Colonel Michael Aquino's military paper, From PSYOPs to Mind War, some of which I've read on the channel. You know, that's that guy with the eyebrows. He looks like a devil. They must be convincingly compiled in order to be accepted as a whole of proofs if they're to be presented as evidence. You know, sort of like the video that I posted today demonstrating the patterns of vandalism, the patterns of Zersetzung on my property. Like I said before, don't give yourself away by buying strange monitoring gear. If you're being attacked by EMF waves, you need to end it, not monitor it. So save your money unless you're concerned for your health. If you need professional help to build a case and want to prove electronic attack, hire a professional. There are exceptions, but in most cases, a fool is his own lawyer or expert witness. Just as important, you must know how, where, and when to file a complaint and what to include. I filed my very first and only complaint with the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., which brought an end to my stalking. If you choose my route, it's important to understand you will be the first to be investigated. Be sure you have clean hands. I did this because I was able to catch on almost immediately that it was a government targeting. Not because I'm smarter than anyone else, but because I don't trust anyone. I didn't confide personal goings on with anyone because I don't let people get too close. I'm always suspicious and I don't need a best friend to share personal stories with. I also don't create problems for myself by causing scenes, confronting people, or making petty complaints to the police. I methodically evaluate situations, and that's how I was able to figure things out early on because I almost never drop my guard to anyone. So I just keep everything quiet and start collecting evidence, like dates, times, and suspected incidences. When I first began to weigh my options, I also knew that I was outmatched. How could I go up against the government and all the resources they have available? I knew that they could be beat, but knew that I couldn't do it. I knew the area police agencies were involved too, and you can't fight the law, so who can? Then it hit me. The law can fight the law. The trick is finding someone with integrity to care. You might not be able to do that, but you can rely on human traits like selfishness or self-preservation. Everyone cares about themselves, so use that to your leverage. So, do you complain to internal affairs of the local police department or go above their heads to the chief? The district attorney? The mayor? Maybe you think state police or the FBI? I thought all of these things, but where I live in Connecticut, it's not that simple. We have the statewide narcotics task force where they all work together. Oh, so they collaborate and information share. This got me to thinking that they were all too close and maybe even go out for drinks or cookouts. Their loyalties may be compromised. I had to file my complaint outside the area and it had to be documented. Remember, someone with no ties to the area will look out for themselves. If it's documented that you contacted them and they fail to act when everything goes wrong, it's their neck and it's a federal crime. Oh, wow. I've got a list of people who haven't acted, including Dr. Rebecca Caleb Wilson, the veterinarian. Oh, yeah, the county lawyer, when I filed a complaint with an eyewitness. And what about the judge? And what about Judgy Pudgy and the magistrate? There are lots of people that chose to do nothing, including the former attorney general and a governor. Lashing out without knowing the source of your stalking never turns out well, and it's not a good strategy. If you want your complaint to be taken seriously, you must be taken seriously. But what if your complaint doesn't rise to the level of a federal case? Well, hopefully it means that you got results and it never escalated. You see, there is a law you will read later in this book that says the police have to guarantee that you're protected from being stalked or from a conspiracy to do so. If you've complained properly and they willfully fail to act, then they have become part of that conspiracy by default. I've been saying that already. This means that they are just as liable to be charged with being participants in whatever happens to you by not doing what they are sworn and obligated to do. That is to protect you. That in and of itself is a crime, and technically an officer committing a crime while on duty rises to the level of a federal crime, acting under the color of law, also later in this book. Yes, that's section 18, title 241 and 242. When filing your complaint, you must be concise, professional, written intelligently, which is not the same as written well. When I file with the DOJ, the form asks for simple details and a brief description of my complaint. Filing using any provided forms, and don't attach or mail unsolicited materials. Don't send anything unless you're contacted and asked to. Even when you do submit evidence, don't send incoherent ramblings, piles of notes, sketches, pictures, etc. Send exactly what they require and the rest available upon request. If everything is kept professional, including your attitude, that's the way you should expect to be treated. If you don't know how to do things professionally, then get help. Well, you know what? I found here in Jackson County, Kentucky, it doesn't matter if you file professionally or not, you still get no response. Now, you should know that I didn't seek or retain help from anyone, but I did massive amounts of reading, and especially on laws and the history of all this stuff, like past cases and results. Don't attempt to do what I've done unless you're extremely confident. I've had substantial interactions with the courts, contracts, and what have you. I've been writing all of my own contracts since my nightclub performing days way back when, and I also took a writing class. This means that I know how to word legal documents. However, I've never been foolish enough to go to court without a lawyer as my mouthpiece. It's just all part of the game, and it's their game. Well, I'm going to say, well, good for you for being able to hire an attorney. I don't know about everybody else, but there are so many targeted people that can't not only afford an attorney, but have contacted lawyers who have been bribed, coerced, or never get back to them, including myself. Luckily, there are classes at most community colleges to learn how to write contracts, usually part of a business course and very often standalone. Online you can learn because writing specifically for legal documents is different than writing a course. And I'll say as a fact that AI can clearly write a contract for you. So it's not even required that you take any online courses. You just have to understand that if AI writes you something, you have to proofread it to make sure that it's correct. Although this manual is supposed to offer solutions, I can't take into account every scenario or even everything that happened to me. If you are a whistleblower, a journalist, writer, someone with inside information, test subject, random, it depends on why the intensity and extent of the abuse will depend on who you are and why it's happening. Some things you should look out for, like oddly running into old acquaintances and people you meet, or situations that may seem random are often not by chance. Friends of friends, strange coincidences. These things have happened to me so many times that they defied all statistical laws. Don't let people know what you're up to or the inner workings of your mind. Remember, only allow people to see what you want them to see. Think of everything you do or don't do as feeding information or creating a story. Now, I don't expect that many of you can naturally act out these roles. However, these are extraordinary circumstances and may require extraordinary measures. You're a citizen often being subjected to military tactics as a civilian by your government or others. Have you had military or counterintelligence training? And I'll answer, no. Of course you have nothing to hide, but then try to be yourself. But how is an innocent target supposed to react to constant attacks? If I told you everything that has happened to me, it goes far beyond the pale of the realm of the unbelievable. Some of it in my earlier parts of this manual, some more in-depth stuff is in my last book, and some I have still never told anyone. As with anything, just be smart about it. If you think you've experienced everything that the perpetrators have to offer, I can assure you that I've experienced more than most of you, and then some. The things I've told you in this book are the things necessary to get the information across. The things I can tell absolutely no one about are things that most people can't fathom. Oh, it's sort of like how they remote control insects to cross your desk or line up in a wall opposite you out of nowhere. Or how about urine that materializes out of the air? Does that mean that there's no hope if you did everything wrong? I have done enough research to know that most of you did, but mostly because we're just normal humans. When we get harassed, we call the police. We think we're going crazy. We seek help. Even when we put it all together, we're too naive or too gullible. We look for people to confide in who may actually be in on it. We brought into reporting bad cops to internal affairs. We believe that we can tell all our problems to friends we meet and so on. Predictably is exactly what this system is built on. Wars are fought and won based on being able to anticipate your enemy's next move. Manipulating them to make that move is part of the art of war. If you did do everything wrong, you may still be able to do something to end it by starting now. You might be able to recall a document through incidents that have happened where you may be able to prove something's been going on. In many cases, these stalkers don't cover their tracks, well, because there's no need. The system is based on people being cluelessly easy targets. Real rock solid evidence is your best friend. Accusations without it can bring you to a halt very quickly. That's right. This is why I tell you guys, like, do not go filing reports on your directed energy weapons and stuff like that until you have evidence. And it doesn't necessarily mean just the evidence that you physically see on your body. You have to have a forensics examiner be able to file a complaint, a report, an analysis on your behalf. And that can be costly. Okay, so we can go on forever with scenario after scenario, but everything comes to an end. After all, this is only a guide, and everyone may not get the same results. If you have any questions, most can be answered by reading this entire manual. You can always email me, but keep it short and only email me if you've purchased this manual and have read it in its entirety. Some of your questions may be used for the second edition, if there's enough interest without using your names, of course. So that is completing chapter 5. I hope everybody's doing well. Leave a comment down below.